Skitoski Sankaku Ren'ai is, or also known in English as Love Triangle Trouble, is a visual novel from 2016 developed by Asa Project, and I thought it was pretty good. I have the VNDB page up here because I have a bad memory, so I will be looking over here a lot to check information. But my basic review of this is that it's fucking hilarious. Consistently, probably the funniest visual novel I've ever read. And it's all like lowbrow humor. Don't expect anything particularly, philosophical or mind bending out of this. This is just like dick jokes and stuff like that, which is, you need some of that in your life. I think that's valuable. I see a lot of people, they'll talk about a comedy in like a film or TV show or whatever, and they'll gush about how funny it is, and then at the end of it they'll be like, yeah, it was like a 7 out of 10. Like, no, comedy takes as much skill to write as any other genre. Like, it's as valuable as any other genre. So I think a really good comedy, like, I laughed out loud throughout this. And I think a lot of other comedy focused visual novels have a sort of symptoms. So for example, with Fureraba, right? Friend to Lover. The common route was very comedy focused, but then once you get onto the characters' individual roots, the comedy takes a backdrop to the characters and sort of emotional romance, drama, stuff like that, which I thought, in my personal opinion, wasn't really strong enough to carry the visual novel. Whereas Ski to Ski, pardon me, is comedic throughout and doesn't drop the comedy or lower in quality once you get onto the individual character routes out of the common route. Now, this visual novel has a kind of interesting technical setup where most visual novels have one common route and then it diverges into each character's route. This one splits it up into a common route, then into two diverging routes. One is I forgot what it's called, like the lover's route, and one of them is the sister's route. So basically, as the English title is Love Triangle Trouble, there are 6 heroines. 2 of them are... hold on, let me get the character names. You've got Kisu and Nanaru... Kisu and Maho. So Kisu is like an eroge otaku pervert type of character. She's very funny. Who's making it like flirting with the main character a lot. And then Maho is like an Osanana Jimmy character who's really into fighting games. Each of the characters has their own, each of the heroines has their own different otaku interest, which I thought was pretty funny because it leads to a lot of funny character moments where you can, if you talk to otaku who are into these sort of hobbies before, different subsections of otaku, like it's quite funny the way they play with the stereotypes about what various otaku are into. I'll talk about that more in a second. So you've got the first one is the lover's route, which is basically the childhood friend versus the new flirtatious eroge otaku. Then the sister's route, which is Suzu, the main character's biological sister, but he hasn't seen her in many years, versus Nanaru, who is his non-biological sister, but he's lived with her for more recently. So it's sort of like is blood stronger than living with someone for a long time? It's a pretty interesting dynamic. And then you have the 2 side heroines who are Kara, who's has a lot of gimmicky traits. So she speaks in like Degozaru, like old-fashioned Japanese. She's a foreigner, so she also speaks in like a really terrible foreign accent. She is like a lolly type, and she's obsessed with cosplay. So she has like 4 of these weird character traits which make her too specific to be a main heroine, and they poke fun at that in the visual novel, which I thought was pretty funny. And then finally Akane, who is a Fujo. That's pretty much her only character trait, is that she's a Fujoshi. Although I really liked her character design. Okay, so you can pretty much split it into the sisters, the side heroines, and the lovers, right? This is a siscon visual novel as well, if you choose to go with the sisters routes. So just be wary of that. If you're based, you should if you're based in Redfield, that should be a good sign to you. Okay. So you sort of split into these different routes. It's pretty interesting. if I had one main problem with the actual contents of the visual novel, I would say my biggest thing that I thought was lacking is that Akane is really not fleshed out as a character. She's you know, which is fine, like in the main story since she's just a side heroine. But when you go on her route, it's really short and not very funny or interesting at all. Which I just thought was a shame because I really liked her character design and her voice actress. I thought she was pretty cute, so I thought it was a bit of a shame that they didn't give her that much attention. Um, but I guess for a side heroine, you can't really expect it. And it's pretty much a good thing if my main complaint is that there wasn't enough rather than that there was too much. Um, but other than that, all of the heroines' routes are very funny and very they're not particularly. I'm not the biggest fan of melodrama, particularly like high school melodrama, and there's very much not so much of that in this visual novel, which I thought was something that is good for me. Now, another thing this visual novel has a lot of is like fourth wall breaking jokes. So one example, I'll try not to tell too many jokes from the visual novel because it doesn't work when I just try and repeat the jokes in a different format, in a different language, like it just won't work. So I'll try not to repeat too many of the jokes, and just because it will make them unfunny. But one of the, for example, as a fourth wall breaking joke, at one point, Suzu, I'm really bad with names, sorry. Suzu has sort of an existential freak out because she realizes that she can only make a set number of facial expressions and body expressions, obviously because she's just a sprite in a visual novel. I thought that was very funny. There's a lot of fourth wall breaking jokes like that. For example, fucking Kisu, she when she first introduces herself, she literally lists out all of the choices you have to make in order to get onto her route, which I thought was very funny. So the visual novel is consistently funny. Many like genuine laugh out loud belly laugh type. It's not just like kind of funny. It's like laugh out loud funny throughout through all the routes, except maybe even the side routes are kind of funny. So yeah, if you like comedy, wacky, non-serious visual novels, this is for you. I think the visual novels at its weakest in the sisters' route. See, in the lovers' routes, it stays comedy the whole time, whereas in the sisters' routes, there's a bit more drama, and some of it was good, some of it was bad. It was kind of a mixed bag. It wasn't done excellently, but obviously that's not really the focus of the VN, so you can't really critique it too hardly for that. But in fact, some of it really hit me quite hard because I played through Suzu's route first, and then the final route I played was Nanaru. And in Nanaru's route, you see what happens to Suzu, who when she doesn't end up going out with you. And I thought that was quite sad, especially because I thought Suzu was a much better girl than Nanaru. So I was like getting pissed off at myself as the main character for choosing the wrong fucking girl and then making the other sister sad, who's way cuter. But yeah, that was pretty well done, although it gets a little heavy-handed, shall we say, at certain points. I wouldn't recommend this VN for people who aren't already quite a relatively deep otaku. I mean, you're not going to be playing an eroge like this unless you're a relatively deep otaku, but there's a lot of references and in-jokes and stuff like that like there's a whole arc that revolves around girls in Panzer. So if you don't know what that is, then all of that is just gonna not make any sense to you. But yeah, I think most people should be fine because you're not really gonna be reading an eroge unless you're already an otaku. So it shouldn't be a problem. Now let me get to my actual biggest problem with this visual novel, and it has nothing to do with the original visual novel. But it's probably the worst thing about it. So this is just a big be warned. The translation is fucking awful. The localization is way overboard. I wonder if I can find out who did the localization. Neko Nyan. Whoever the fuck the translators were for Neko Nyan, you fucked up so bad. I don't know why you made this decision. There were just a bunch of like English Western memes forced into there's you know the meme from like 10 years ago of all according to Keikaku and how it was like kind of funny when like fan subbers would put it in their subs and shit like that at first, and it instantly got boring. Remember, this translation happened in 2018. There's 3 different times when they use all according to Keikaku. This visual novel has the words Big Chungus in it. It's fucking awful. And it's the worst when you can hear that the Japanese. I don't speak fluent Japanese, but I speak just enough Japanese to where I can tell when the audio of the voice acting is not saying the same thing as the translation. And it's fucking. Why not just translate it directly? I would much rather, even if it's like, oh, this is a Japanese meme that the Western audience won't get, well then give a translator's note or something. Just like, don't throw in shit that's just your own. There's a section where they do like a Rick Astley never gonna give you up meme. That's not in the original. There's so many memes that aren't in the original. It's just awful. It's just forced in there by the translation to try and like seem hip and cool. And I much rather that would be in this type of visual novel, which is over the top meme comedy, internet type stuff. But still, I think it's inappropriate. I still think I would have much rather gone with a more literal translation, less localization. I'm really disappointed in the Neko Nan translation for that, because it just goes. I don't mind a few memes, and not everything has to be translated 100% literally. Like, that's fine. They just go way overboard with it. Like, I'm okay with squeezing in a few like Western memes where they're to make up for the Japanese equivalent. That's like I'm fine with that. But they really went overboard, and it gets to the point where every time you hear it, you see the character use some Western meme from 2 years ago, you're just like, ugh, because it's like those memes are already really outdated, and that's why you don't put memes in your fucking visual novels, because they'll be outdated and unfunny by the time I read them 2 years later or whatever. So that's definitely my by far biggest complaint. Nothing against the original Asa project and the original creators of the visual novel. It's all the translation, which I just thought was fucking just so annoying that they went. I mean, sometimes it's funny. It can be funny sometimes. Like, I won't lie. When I saw that they wrote Big Chungus in the words of the fucking visual novel, I was like, I laughed. But I laughed at them. I wasn't laughing with the visual novel. I was laughing at the fact that someone typed that sentence. Because why? Like, it doesn't add anything. It's just stupid. And it's so much like that. Just constantly forcing Western memes into it where they just don't necessarily belong. Because sometimes they're funny. Sometimes they can, sometimes the memes fit, but not always. So I would rather they didn't go as overboard as they did. But again, you can pretty much put up with that because it's already a comedy-focused and fourth wall-breaking, light-hearted kind of visual novel. So it's not like they're squeezing in memes in a completely tonally dissonant way. It does fit that they're all nerdy otaku-type characters who you would imagine would be talking in memes anyway. So it makes sense. It doesn't ruin the characters or the flow of the story to have lots of memes in there. I just wish that they'd been a more direct translation to the Japanese and not tried to force in old Reddit tier Western memes. But yeah, I don't think it's a deal breaker. I'm kind of annoyed at it. Okay, is there anything else I had to say about this? I guess I'll just go through each of the routes individually. So my favorite girl was Kisu. She's also the route I played first. Mostly because I just like sort of trashy otaku girl type characters. It feels like someone I would actually hang out with in real life. So, and I liked the sort of gap moe between her sort of otaku persona and then when she actually gets embarrassed when she's involved in real romance and stuff. I thought that was pretty moe. So, and also she's probably the funniest. She's always cracking jokes about eroge and stuff like that. So I'd probably give her the highest rating of all the routes. Maho, I didn't expect to like because I'm normally not too into sort of tomboy types or childhood friend types, and she's both, so I didn't really expect to like her. But I ended up, again, there's sort of a cute gap moe between her fighting, like a girl that plays fighting games and is sort of very competitive, becoming very romantic and cutesy. I thought that was pretty well handled. And so I would say that that was pretty cute too. Although out of the two of them, Kisu is probably on top. And then for the sisters, they do a fun little switch up where the sister who one of the sisters, Suzu, is much more of a typical archetypical Imoto type character, whereas Nanaru's a bit more of like a, I wouldn't say she's a tsundere, but she's let's see, is there a appropriate description in her description tag? Carefree, funny, lazy, moody, otaku, sleepyhead, strange, watashi. Yeah, she's kind of like, I say she's a bit of like, she's a bit tsundere. She's not really a tsundere. No, she's not a tsundere. That's not the right word. She's more like a boisterous. She's more boisterous and masculine, not super cutesy and feminine. I'll say that sort of thing. Like she'll make dirty jokes and stuff like that. But unlike their personalities would suggest, Nanaru is the one who's into moe anime, and Suzu is the one that's into like shonen type battle anime, which I thought was an interesting little switch up, and also kind of reflects a little bit some of my experience in real life. But the thing I didn't like is that the moe anime, and I know this is realistic to Japan especially, but the moe anime that Nanaru is obsessed with is a fictional moe anime called Idora, which is clearly supposed to be like, you know, Love Live or Idolmaster or something like that. And that, like, I hate that sort of anime, so that instantly, like, I just don't like idol anime at all. I love moe anime, I don't like idol anime. So I wish they'd chosen a different moe anime, but again, it's realistic for her type of character, especially in Japan, to be very obsessed with a particular idol anime. But just not my personal taste, and so that made me gravitate towards Suzu, even though I'm probably much more into moe than I am into shonen. I also thought that both of their routes are pretty good. Yeah, like I don't really have any major complaints with any of the story details or anything. Maybe they were, especially Nanaru's does get a little bit. The writers aren't very good at drama, and they do a little bit of drama, which it's sort of in the background. It doesn't take over the plot for too long, but I didn't think it was too great. But it wasn't enough to turn me off of it or anything, so I thought those were okay. And as for the side characters, Kara I thought was pretty cute. I am a bit of a sucker for like overly specific autistic like moes, where like they have like she says Degozaru, and like, you know, she's like foreigner, she's into like all of this stuff, or like a billion character traits to have a really specific appeal like that. I really like characters like that. And I also just think her character design is pretty cute. She also has another trait, which is, I don't know if you've ever seen that anime called Kiss Him Not Me, but the main character in that, she used to be fat, and she, you know, locked herself in her room because something happened and she got thin, and then suddenly she's beautiful. The same thing happens with Kara at the start of this visual novel, spoiler alert, but it happens right at the beginning, so it doesn't matter. Where she's introduced and she's fat, and then she gets sick and comes back and she's super skinny and beautiful, whatever, right? I don't know, it's kind of a gimmick, but I thought it was maybe worth mentioning. Yeah, I thought she was pretty cute. I like the way her voice actress speaks is very soft spoken, kind of like ASMR-y, and the fake Japanese foreign accent, like the fake accent of a foreign person trying to speak Japanese, is kind of moe, and the fact that she ends all of her sentences with Degozaru is also kind of moe. Obviously her route is very short because she's just a side heroine, but yeah, I thought it was pretty funny. She, like, when you go on her route, she seems just as surprised that you actually ended up on her route, which I thought was pretty funny. And finally, Akane. Again, I really like her character design. Like, I like how, you know, even though I am not particularly into like thick type girls, I like that she's not like she's a character who eats all the time, like that's a common trope, but she is actually like a little bit pudgy for an anime girl, which is still skinny. But compared to the other girls, you can actually, like, she's not just magical, she actually is a little bit, which I thought was kind of cute, to be honest. But other than that, her only personality trait is that she's into BL, which is just boring. Even if you're into BL, I think you'll find her annoying because she's just a stereotype of a Fujoshi. Yeah, there's also a side character who's also in the same anime club as the main character, who's a guy, but everyone knows they don't matter. Even the eroge itself points out that he doesn't matter and shouldn't even be. Yeah, it's pretty funny. So that's how I'd rate all the routes. I think that the I think I would probably go with Kisu as the best girl, followed by Suzu, followed by Maho, followed by Kara, followed by Nararu, followed by Akane. Those are probably the order of best girl that I would pick. I don't know if I have anything else to say about this. Oh, I should talk about the ero scenes or the ecchi scenes. They're fine. they're nothing special. They're a bit short. They also lack, like, there's only 2 or 3 drawings per scene, 4 ecchi scenes per route, which is fine. They even make a joke about that at some point in the visual novel. It's very fourth wall breaking about how they can't afford any more, which I thought was kind of funny. But then it's also like, well, then I don't know. It doesn't just because you know that you're pissing in the street doesn't mean you're pissing in the middle of doesn't mean you're not pissing in the street. So it's still it's still a little bit sub average, but the drawings are all fine. Like I get annoyed when the drawings are very not unrealistic, but like the postures of characters are like their back would be broken, the perspective's off. Like none of that is present in this visual novel. The art is fine. It's not stellar. It's not like the best art I've ever seen, but it's perfectly fine. All of the scenes are fine. They're pretty vanilla. Nothing particularly notable about them. I think that's that. This isn't like a Nukige. You don't really play it for the ecchi scenes. Like you can skip them, and the only thing you'd miss out on is a few jokes, which are, I don't know. Maybe you should watch them, but I don't think they would really be good to, fap to, because the characters will make like inappropriate jokes that would kill the mood in the middle of the ecchi scenes, and I don't know if you'd want to do that. But yeah, they're fine. Average, nothing special. And the art in general and the art and music are generally just average, like nothing particularly special about them. But it's fine. Like, it's a good thing that I don't have anything negative to particularly say about the art. All the character designs are pretty interesting and nice, even though none of them are too crazy or like too unique. I think that's pretty much all I have to say. I would recommend it. I think it's a pretty fun visual novel, especially if you're into like meta humor and lowbrow dick jokes for 30 hours. Can't go wrong, really.